Are we up and running?
Good evening. I will now call the January 9th, 2024 meeting of the Ben Lapine School Board of Directors to order. I would like to introduce the participants to this evening. To my immediate left is Director Cameron Fisher, Director Shirley Olson, Director Amy Tatum, and Director Carrie McPherson Douglas are joining us remotely. To my immediate right are Superintendent Steve Cook and Board Clerk Janet Bojanowski. Deputy Superintendent Lauren Nordquist is also joining us remotely. I am Melissa Barnes-Delakia, Chair of the Board. We also have Eleni Adams from Summit High School joining us from the Student Voice Council. Thank you for being here. We have Erin Trimble and Hannah Westfall joining us for ASL interpretation. And as always, a Spanish interpretation of the meeting is being provided on the BLS School Board YouTube page. I will now invite you to stand, remove your hats, and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
America. And to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
well,
We'll now go into the review of the agenda. Tonight's agenda focuses on two of our four goals: ensuring students are engaged and reach high levels of academic achievement with a focus on literacy, as well as recognizing the exceptional practice of our National Board credentialed teachers in achieving that. We also are looking at ensuring our operations are aligned to support an academically successful, inclusive, and sustainable organization. In addition, we will be looking at how our district works with the collective governmental agencies in our community as it relates to housing. Dr. Cook, are there any changes to the agenda?
There are no changes to the agenda.
Fellow board members, are there any changes to the agenda? Hearing no requests for changes, we will proceed with the agenda as noticed. We'll now move into district recognitions. And I will be handing it over to Michelle Oaks, Mentor Program Coordinator, to recognize our National Board certification. Yes, no, just push it until it's green and then it's fine.
You think this be my first time. Thank you, board, Dr. Cook, audience, all of the esteemed teachers in the room today. Thank you very much. What we do is every other year, we kind of give some background around National Board, and then we recognize our newly certified and maintained National Board certified teachers. So a little bit of background about National Board. Doesn't want to go, Janet. Oh. I know, I can see it, but it's not moving. When I click on it, it's not changing slides.
There you go.
Oh, there we go.
Just need it close.
Thank you, Scott. You just need to be near me. National Board is a professional learning opportunity in which teachers reflect on their teaching practice and hold it against National Board standards. Those are high, rigorous standards that teachers hold the practice up against and go, here are the areas that I am amazing at, and here are the areas that I continue to grow. And so with those high rigorous standards, a key part of National Board Certification is reflection. This deep reflection and analysis on the practice allows teachers to teach with intentionality, to improve their practice, and in turn, increase student outcomes. National Board Certification is for teachers, by teachers. And so the standards that are set forth were created by other National Board Certified teachers. Currently, there are 112,000 MBCTs across the country. They have all demonstrated accomplished teaching and excellence. We have some that will be joining those 112,000 tonight. Accomplished teachers also lead the profession. In Washington and Oregon, in Washington, there are about 10,000 National Board Certified teachers. In Oregon, we have under 300. Heather Anderson and I, my compadre who was not able to be here this evening, we are working with legislators in order to ensure elevating National Board Certification in the state of Oregon. There's a direct impact on students. There's 10 years of research that shows that a nationally board certified teacher can have up to 1.5 to 2 months of additional instructional learning as compared to a non-MBCT. It also shows that BIPOC students, title students, show benefits as they work with MBCTs. Relevant and impactful professional learning. 96% of MBCTs state that National Board Certification is some of the most impactful and meaningful professional learning that they go through. And those numbers are definitely aligned with what we see in Ben Lapine with our MBCTs. The reason it is so impactful is because it's not top-down professional learning. It is what is it the teacher sees as their strengths and gaps within the standards, and then through that reflection analysis, where are the areas that they're going to grow. And that professional learning, that self-drive is really what moves and makes this so impactful. As I mentioned, it is created for teachers, by teachers, it is scored by MBCTs, and it is reviewed every 5 years. So they're always looking at, are the standards still relevant? If not, what can we do to make sure that they are? And of course, changes to teacher practice. 91% say that it is, MBCTs have said that going through the process has impacted their instruction. Many say this before they even certify. Just going through the process and reflection and looking at the standards and working with colleagues that are doing similar things has changed their practice. Myself, I use what I've learned through National Board Certification as I work with novice educators, as I work with their students, and as I work as a teacher leader. The one thing that I always do is ask why. What is the why behind it? We had a PE teacher in Ben Lapine Schools. He was the first National Board Certified PE teacher in the state of Oregon. And he had never thought about how to use assessment in physical education. By going through this process, that weakness became his strength. He is now working at the University of Georgia and sharing his vast knowledge around physical education. I put in this slide because I know that we talk about retention, we talk about recruitment, and I wanted you to see where National Board Certification falls in the educator career continuum. So as pre-service teachers, they come in onto the continuum, into their career. One thing to note is that pre-service teachers participate in something called an EdTPA. EdTPA was actually modeled after National Board Certification. And so the teachers that are pre-service right now and coming into the educational system, they already have had this kind of reflective experience, which is fabulous. We have our novice educators who are in their first to 5 years that are supported within the mentor program. We have our professional teachers in this room, many of them. And oftentimes, as a professional teacher, we think about what is our next step. Oftentimes, the catalyst for that next step is national board certification, which leads to teacher leaders, TOSAs, state leaders, presenters at state and national conferences. And so this is how national board fits into that continuum. As I mentioned, national board elevates student learning and also supports our schools. These are the 5 core propositions, and they describe what highly accomplished teachers should know and be able to do. And as you read through those and you think about accomplished teachers that are committed to their students and their learning, they know their subjects and how to teach them to the students who are sitting in front of them right now. They're responsible for managing and monitoring student learning. They think systematically about their practice, and they're members of learning communities. That's the teacher. Those are the teachers we want serving our students. And that is what National Board Certification brings to the table for many educators. Under the 5 core propositions, there are 25 different certificates that have their own standards. And those standards are more specific to the content and to the developmental levels of those certificates. For instance, I am an early childhood generalist, ages 3 through 8, which means I know the developmental stages and the academic knowledge that a child from age 3 through 8 should know. And it has been very helpful because as a kindergarten teacher, when I first initially certified, I didn't know anything about a 3-year-old. I didn't have children of my own, but I did have children who demonstrated behaviors that I was then able to identify and support. And so this process helps you do that. Very quickly about the process. Everybody wants to know, what do you have to do? The first component is a content knowledge and development assessment. It's a 3-hour exam that includes multiple choice and essays. The second component, 2, 3, and 4 are like a portfolio that they submit. Component 2 is around differentiation and instruction. That's really how well do you know your students? What feedback are you giving your students? What's the goal setting look like in order to support differentiation? Component 3 is the lens into teaching practice. So you have 2 videos and 2 written commentaries that you submit. And it is really understanding the sequence of instruction. The lesson that I did today, why is it here? It's building on the one I did yesterday, and it's setting the foundation for the future work. And also the collaboration. What's the student-to-student engagement looking like? Component 4 is an effective and reflective practitioner. That one, once again, looks at your knowledge of students. It looks at what is the information you are gathering from multiple sources, parents, colleagues, in order to know your students. And also, how are you bringing in self-assessment, which I know is a focus that we're working on K-12 right now. And so using all of this information to support student learning. And so that's the portfolio that our MBCTs submit. You can now start your certification process in the first year. We don't recommend that. Got a little bit too much on your plate at the time, but it is possible. The sweet spot, as we said, is usually the 5th year to 10th year when you're looking for the what's next. It does take 1 to 3 years to go through the process, and the cost is about $1,900. Totally, it is estimated that it takes about 100 hours to get fully certified. So you don't go into this faint of heart. We have statewide support. OEA is a partner in our work, and they offer a 4-day jumpstart that does just that, jumpstarts candidates in the process. And TSPC also has a pathway as you move from preliminary to a professional license. National Board Certification is one of those choices that you can use. We also hope to have some future legislation in place that will support our National Board Certified teachers. In Ben Lapine Schools, we have been recognized as a distinguished district. We are the only National Board Distinguished District in the state of Oregon, and it is because we have the most MBCTs in the state. We're currently sitting at 42 active MBCTs. We also are the only ones who offer cohort support. We offer that support for our initial candidates, which is voluntary, and also for those that are maintaining their certification. In addition, when we have several candidates going through, we have National Board readers, and those are MBCTs who volunteer to read other candidates' papers and to give feedback. We currently have 5 candidates that are in process and at least 5 that are expressing interest, and we'll have an info session coming up in the spring. So that's just kind of National Board in a nutshell. I know it was a lot of information. Feel free to reach out if you have other additional questions or comments. But we are really here today to honor those that have certified and who have maintained certification. So first up, we have a newly certified teacher, Randy Johansson from Pine Ridge Elementary. Randy says, the National Board process helped to reframe my focus on why students would do a task instead of the what the task would be. This reflection has deepened my understanding of teaching and learning. Great job, Randy. And then we have 5 MBCTs who maintained. And I don't remember if I said this, but our National Board Certified teachers maintain their certifications every 5 years. So they do a much smaller portfolio during that time, but they still hold true to the standards, and they also have to demonstrate their learning through a video within their classroom. So up for maintaining National Board certification, first up we have Sarah Barclay, our BEA president. As I began serving as president of Bend Education Association a few years ago, it was important to me that I continue to hone my teaching skills and advocate for students. Maintaining my certification has afforded me that opportunity. And know that Sarah had to borrow a classroom in order to do that. Wonder whose. Casey Bullock. I don't know if Casey's here. Oh, yes, Casey is here. Excellent. Bend Senior High. National Board certification has helped me be more purposeful and reflective in the classroom and with my career as a whole. Christine Habel, Buckingham Elementary. My National Board's learning has helped me to create more enriching and supportive learning experiences for all my students in spite of the challenging climate of our educational system. And they're all coming, Christine, so. Jenny Newell from Bend Senior High, who's not able to be with us. She's picking up her parents at the airport right now. While doing my national boards was a significant commitment on top of all of our other responsibilities as teachers, it is always helpful to take time to reflect on our practice, to think what's working and what isn't, and make appropriate adjustments. I'm grateful that our district recognizes the work and commitment it takes to be a national board teacher. And then Ayla Overcash. And I didn't see Ayla. Summit High School. And Ayla says, the National Board Certification process is one of the best professional activities I've participated in because it encourages me to reflect on my practice. And Ayla is one of the few, people ever to get certified in 2 different certification areas. She is certified in ELA and library media. So kudos to Ayla. And so thank you to our new and maintained MBCTs. Congratulations.
Congratulations to all of our National Board Certified teachers. And we will now move into item 4B, School Board Recognition Month with Superintendent Cook.
Thank you, Chair Barnes-Delakia. We're excited to recognize that January is School Board Appreciation Month, and so we have a proclamation that we'd like to put onto the record. Whereas the school board commits itself to the success of each and every student, whereas the school board sets a vision for academic excellence, future readiness, and a culture of belonging, whereas the school board represents all the diverse communities that make up Ben Lapine Schools, whereas the school board collaborates with students, families, staff, and community members to help promote the district's vision and goals, whereas the school board holds both district leadership and its health to high standards, and whereas the school board volunteers untold hours in the service of students and staff. Now, therefore, we hereby declare our appreciation to the members of the Ben Lapine School Board of Directors and proclaim the month of January to be School Board Recognition Month. We urge all members of the community to join us in celebrating the dedication and hard work of our Board of Directors. Adopted this 9th day of January, 2024. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We will now move to our Student Advisory Council report.
Hello, my name is Lenny Adams, and I am a senior at Summit High School, where I'm a part of the Student Council and the founder of the school's Social Justice Club. As a member of the Student Voice Council, I've learned a lot about how Ben Lapine schools function and how changes to policy can be made and new policies can be put in place. The council has discussed many things, including equity education, rotator periods, attendance, and cell phone policy, which has only made me realize how valuable student voice is to the district because we are the ones who are affected by changes made by the district. The council is continuing to discuss various district practices, and in particular, we dove further into the cell phone policy at our last meeting. Looking forward, we are excited to assist Mr. Powell in updates to help better support the needs of students. One of our main concerns is that the policy is set to have a disciplinary motive rather than a restorative one. In high school, young adults need to learn skills and practice habits that are critical to exceeding in the adult world, such as accountability and respect towards others. The use of cell phone caddies can keep students from learning how to manage their own technology and resist the urge to use their cell phones when not appropriate. The use of technology is only going to increase in our society, and we need to see that as a tool rather than a burden. Additionally, many students would like to feel a greater sense of trust and respect from their teachers and administrators. One suggestion from our meeting was to install a music streaming platform on iPads for students that have learning disabilities or simply learn differently. I personally know many students who find that music is critical to their focus. Even students who have special school accommodations that allow them to listen to music are sometimes prevented from doing so because teachers are afraid that letting one student use their cell phone during class will set a bad precedent. Installing a music streaming platform on iPads would help avoid this problem. Additionally, it is important to note that such a change would not allow students to listen to music during lectures, and it is already practiced that students may only have earbuds in during quiet work times. Mr. Powell has already passed this suggestion on to the IT department, where we discovered some challenges with content filters and managed ID accounts. But changes are possible down the road, and it was positive to see follow-up from the council's suggestion. Furthermore, I am excited to share my voice with the board and them to listen. Our school system has had so many changes post-COVID, which has greatly impacted students, and I believe there are many more challenges that can and should happen. As this council continues to grow, I hope the district will utilize our voices in advocating for positive impacts on the lives of students. In the future, the council will continue to learn more about how district decisions are made in order to better our student community and support. The SVC is excited to help create a system where the student voice is centered in district policy and practices. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Eleni, and I really appreciate that solution-oriented report. Are there any questions that we have for our Student Voice Council at this time from the directors? All right, then we will move on and to our public comment. The board and district leadership value communication from students, families, staff, and community members as it helps to guide the work of Ben Lapine Schools. Public comment is just one of many avenues available to ensure this connection. Members of the public may always submit thoughts, questions, or concerns to the board via email, as well as in writing. Individual board members also may make themselves available for phone, video, or in-person conversations. This said, I want to remind the public that while this is a meeting of the board directors that takes place in the public, it is not a meeting with the public. It is a meeting of the board to conduct district business. As such, the board will not respond to public comment made during tonight's meeting. Instead, issues may be recorded and referred to the proper staff person to follow up with you. We'll now open for public comment and hear from stakeholders on topics in the order that they appear on the agenda. Our policy is to typically allow up to 2 minutes per speaker until the time cap has been reached for that agenda item. We have a number of speakers, so I will be holding us to the 2-minute time cap. We typically allow up to 10 minutes of comments per agenda item and 10 minutes of comments on non-agendized items as a whole, for a maximum of 45 minutes of public comment during a meeting. A timer will be provided, as you can see, on the large screen and to our virtual attendees to ensure every speaker receives updates during the presentation on remaining time. If the speaker goes over time, or if the speaker's message is not in adherence with our policies, for example, being personally directed, abusive, discriminatory, repetitive, or off-topic, I may ask the speaker to cease and terminate that speaker's privilege to address the board. At this time, I would like to invite Michael Graham to speak to us. Is Michael here? He's not here? He is. He's coming. Okay. Hi, Michael. You're going to come all the way up to this podium, Michael. Oh, my. Great. And then can we get the microphone on for him? Fantastic.
Kindest regards, ladies and gentlemen. I've come here to present with you a matter which has not received much attention, the funding regarding school instrument rentals. If you've not seen the current state of most instruments in bands and orchestras in public schools, you would probably be surprised. Most instruments are over the age of 15 years and are practically useless. Here's one example of an instrument in our band room. It's about a 30-year-old trumpet that is practically broken in half. This sums up almost all the instruments that you would find in a band/orchestra room in this state's schools. I'm hopeful in the future that we will get adequate funding for our school instruments. At the moment, I'd like to point out that there is so many benefits from playing a school instrument that could combat the increase in student interruption. These benefits include reduction in stress and anxiety, a combatant to depression, improvements in memory function, teachings in patience, and an increase in mental sharpness. All these benefits are undermined when students are forced to use non-functional, out-of-date, and unpractical instruments. For these reasons, I've actually started a petition about 2 weeks ago that has raised more than $150 and has gotten more than 200 signatures. We are hoping that you will start funding the orchestras and bands in your school district. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Michael. As we always say, we really appreciate having students be able to come and give public comments, so thank you. We'll now move in to our remaining public comment. Our next public comment will be from Brooklyn Hertz.
Hi. Does it work? Okay. As a student, my name's Brooklyn Hertz. I'm a sixth grader at Pacific Crest Middle School. As a student in Ben Lapine, I know from experience that having more help and support in classrooms can prevent distractions to other children and can make the class a safer environment. Throughout elementary school, I've seen peers dysregulated in class, causing distractions to classmates and lessons being taught. There's been many personal experiences that has happened to me, and I'm sure many kids as well. These moments made me feel unsafe and uncomfortable, sometimes just walking to my own class. And fourth, these events have happened multiple years, and it shouldn't happen so often. Having more support in classrooms can prevent this. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Brooklyn. Our next speaker is Jennifer Lashley. And Jennifer, if I mispronounced your last name, please correct me.
Oh, gosh. Okay. Thank you guys for all being here tonight. Wanted you to take
Jennifer,
time to hear
wait,
my-
can we pause the,
Okay, sure.
can you make sure that the button is green for the, yeah,
It is.
and then reset? Okay.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. I wanted to take time to hear my concerns. I am Jennifer Lashley, a committed BLS learning specialist for 17 years in this district and living here since 2004. I work at HTMS with many of our most vulnerable students who deserve the best educational and social experience we can offer them. I have become increasingly concerned about the lack of understanding regarding the true need that learning specialists need in conducting their job in a proper way. I've heard more than once that some of our BLSM admin believe that the student services SPED employees' job are just different and that protected, dedicated time is not necessary for us to complete our work and keep the district out of any risky situations. Like all teachers, I am required to prepare for the students that walk in my door each and every day. Beyond planning, preparing requires me to know each of their disabilities, goals, and accommodations for all 23 students on my caseload. In addition to knowing all of their IEPs, I must implement all their accommodations, unlike my fellow gen ed teachers, not only do I need to prepare for this, I also need to ensure that every one of my gen ed teachers are also implementing the accommodations. Within our positions, learning specialists have the unique job of case management, which includes implementing all parts of special education law throughout the day, our caseloads, developing schedules, behavior, monitoring, assessing progress, collecting data, meeting with teams, and communicating with parents. We attend, lead, and create all paperwork for multiple IEP meetings throughout the school year. In summary, we ensure all SPED laws are followed, and it's imperative to have the time to keep the district following legal requirements. There are 3 types that are not the same. To ensure students, educators, and families have what they need to thrive, educating thriving students is our motto. Providing our student services staff the time they need to do their work well aligns with all the established board goals, students developing a strong academic foundation, students engaged, and students have a passion, purpose, and plan for the future. To achieve these goals, I urge you to direct the BLS bargaining team to establish protected time in our BEA contract.
Thank you, Jennifer, and that was a impressive wrap up on that timer. I appreciate that. Our speaker number 4 will be David Welton.
Okay, Chair Barnes Dalokia, Vice Chair LeGrand, board members, I'm David Welton, a lead with Bend YIMBY, a chapter of YIMBY Action, nationwide pro-housing group, and a father of 2 kids in local schools. I'm here to urge you to say yes to the MUPTI for the Jackstraw project. Our chapter members are ordinary residents of Bend concerned with the housing crisis. Bend is seeing the people the city depends on, police, nurses, pharmacists, and of course teachers. Thank you, teachers. Being priced out by high housing prices. On that note, it's very important to underline that this exemption would not take money away from schools, parks, or the city because it is in the TIF or TIF area. There's no one policy that's going to fix our housing problem. Our group has advocated for all kinds of subsidized, not subsidized housing of all shapes and sizes. Brand new housing like this, it's like brand new cars. It's not going to be the cheapest thing out there, but it acts like a sponge that soaks up the people with more money to spend would otherwise spill out into the existing older housing, driving up those prices. Study after study after study shows that in the real world, an adequate supply of new market rate homes like these helps drive down rents. School board members, you've given a lot of thought to making our schools more inclusive. As a parent, I deeply appreciate this. But as a broader community, part of what being inclusive means are the simple, stark economic realities of who can afford to live in Bend. As many of us do, I have a friend who's been priced out, now lives in a nearby community whose school board has different values. His family would prefer to be here, but we do not have enough homes to go around. We need more housing of all shapes and sizes to close the gap between the housing we have and the number of homes we need, so that everyone who works in Bend can live in Bend. I thank you for your help.
Thank you. Our next speaker is John Halen.
Hi. I'm here about MUPTI as well. I'm here hopefully that you guys will approve the MUPTI. A month ago, I'm also a member of Bend YIMBY Pro Housing Advocacy Group. I'm an employer in town, and I've seen the pain on my employees' faces, on my neighbors' faces, because they are on the verge of getting priced out of this town, or they have been priced out of this town. You got to think of housing like musical chairs. There's only so many chairs in this town. The only way to win, so other people can sit down, is to build more chairs. This MUPTI program, a month ago, I had no idea what a MUPTI was. Now I feel like I have a degree in MUPTI. I wish I could stop saying MUPTI as a word. It meets all the requirements for MUPTI. It's, I guess, on everybody's fault that, the other MUPTIs in different cities are, if you meet the criteria, you get it automatically. In Bend, you have to go and throw yourselves before every taxing board and ask for it. So I don't know why it's set up that way, but 315 units. Yeah, it's market rate housing, but it's incredibly dense. It'll be incredibly valuable as an asset in this town, paying taxes going forward. Because it's located in the TIF, you guys aren't giving up anything. And honestly, like even if it's market rate housing, we need more musical chairs and it'll help because that means that's 315 houses that now people will move into apartments that'll be available for other people. I'm sure everybody here is painfully aware that housing is unaffordable in this town and every little bit helps. So please approve the MUPTI for Jack Straw. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Alicia Clausen.
Hello, my name is Alicia Clausen and I have been a Ben Lapine teacher for over a decade. I graduated from our schools and I have had 2 of my own children graduate as well, with 1 still in attendance. I am well acquainted with Ben Lapine as both a parent and a teacher. I love my job, but I am here to speak to you today as a teacher and a mom who is at the end of her rope. I am here to urge the board and the community to help educators to achieve the goals we're pursuing in our contract negotiations. Every one of our priorities is essential to me as a professional as well as a parent. In particular, I've experienced firsthand the need for clarity and improvement surrounding safety and support in our classrooms. Our schools are continuing to experience intense and increased disruptions in learning. We brought these stories and concerns and pleas forward to you a year ago in February, but there is still no solid solution in place for what your staff and students are experiencing. As a mother, I am disheartened by what my child regularly shares about their experience in school. Middle school is already a challenging period developmentally, and then I get to hear daily almost that he is witnessing his peers verbally abusing and threatening his teachers. This is unacceptable. This is not a conducive learning environment for any student, as we heard from a student as well. This is not an environment I want my child to be in, and I imagine you would all agree. But this continues to happen, and students are returning to the classrooms still dysregulated when they continue to disrupt the learning process of their peers. The same can be said about my position as an elementary school teacher. I've been called names, I've had things thrown at me, and I've had to clear my classroom on more than one occasion due to the severity of unsafe student behaviors. It breaks my heart for each and every student who feels unsafe in these situations. As a mother and an educator, it is a priority that we make all of our kids feel safe. The lack of action and protection on the part of the district shows me that my dedication is not acknowledged or accepted. As I stated earlier, I understand that there is a climate and culture task force working to find long-term solutions to this critical issue. But our students, schools, and staff need short-term help right now. In my opinion, the BEA bargaining team has put forward reasonable proposals that would provide educators the ability to secure and stabilize our learning environments as we see fit until all stakeholders can meet to determine how to best support our dysregulated learners. The current practice of sending students who aren't ready to be back in a classroom is unacceptable and unsafe. I urge the school board to work with the association to provide educators the tools that we can use now to ensure that we have a safe learning environment for our own children as well as our students.
Thank you. I apologize, I was taking notes and didn't look at the clock, so the extra time was not intentional, but in interest of equity, I was taking notes. Our next speaker is Sarah Barclay.
Thank you. For the record, my name is Sarah Barclay. I'm the president of Bend Education Association. As you are likely aware, the bargaining teams were able to use recent full-day bargaining sessions to find agreement on numerous topics. However, after engaging in more than 170 hours of bargaining since the start of this school year, there are several crucial issues left on the table. You've heard others speak tonight on some of those matters. I am speaking tonight on 2 critical issues: compensation and the district's ability to attract and retain high-quality educators. As reported by the Bend Chamber of Commerce last fall, to afford a house in Bend today, a household must earn over $170,000 a year. In Bend, our newest educators make $42,000, and our most experienced educators make $86,000. Habitat for Humanity recently announced their middle-income housing pilot program. It allows applicants who are under 120% area median income to apply. That means applicants must have a gross household income between $85,000 and $115,000. Around 70% of your classified employees would not even qualify for this program. Their income isn't even considered as the lowest end of middle income. It's lower. Your certified employees can't afford to serve the students of Ben Lapine schools. We've seen other districts in the area free up additional funds from their budgets in order to better increase educator compensation. Redmond schools re-examined their budget and prioritized increases of 6.5% for this year and 4.75% for next year. They also restructured their salary schedule to increase the lowest and the top salaries to support recruitment and retention. Culver found a way to provide 7%, High Desert ESD 6.9%. All of those agreements came after the district bargaining teams initially claimed there wasn't enough money in their budgets. They reviewed and prioritized their entire general fund budgets and were able to reallocate existing dollars to better support their educators. Your educators are asking this board to do the same. If Redmond, High Desert, and Culver can find a way to provide compensation and benefit increases that better support their employees, we believe that Bend can too.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Emma Edgren.
Good evening, esteemed members of the school board. My name is Emma Edgren. I'm also a Ben Lapine graduate. I have been a special education in the district for 2 years now. I stand before you today to advocate for increased support in the form of time, caseload management for our dedicated special education teachers. As someone who has witnessed the unwavering commitment of our special education certified staff, I believe it is crucial to address the challenges they face in providing the best education and support for our students with diverse learning needs. Protected planning time. Special education teachers need more dedicated time for planning and collaboration. This time is crucial for implementing individualized education plans and ensuring that our students receive the necessary accommodations and modifications. Without adequate protected planning time, it is increasingly challenged to meet the needs and growing and diverse needs of our students effectively. Case management. The responsibilities of case management are extensive and require meticulous attention to detail. Additional time in this area allows our special education teachers to focus on the individual needs of our students without compromising the quality of their education. Prep time. In order to deliver high-quality instruction and support special education teachers require adequate prep time. This time is essential for creating and modifying materials, assessing student progress, gathering data, and differentiating instruction. I urge the school board to consider the invaluable role of the special education teachers and the impact of providing the necessary supports in these areas. By prioritizing protected planning time, case management support, and prep time, we can ensure that our students with special needs receive the exceptional education and support that they deserve. If increased time cannot be provided, then we need caseload limits and ensure special educators are not overburdened by the sheer number of students they support. Thank you for your attention to this matter. I'm hopeful that together we can work towards creating an environment that supports the success of both our students and our dedicated educators. Thank you.
Thank you, Emma. At this time, I want to thank everyone for their public comments tonight. Public comments that necessitate follow-up will be referred to the appropriate district staff member, and information on that work will be made available at a future meeting. Thank you again. We are now going to move into item number 7, which is our consent for action. I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I will make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you. I will entertain a second.
Second. I'll second.
Thank you. Director Tatum has moved and Director Fisher has seconded. Are there any requests to remove anything from the consent agenda? Since there are no requests for changes, I will call for a vote. Because we have a mix of virtual and in person. I will do a roll call vote. Director Tatum,
Aye.
Director McPherson Douglas,
Aye.
Director Olson,
Aye.
Director Fisher,
Aye.
and I am an aye as well. Motion passes. We'll now move into consent for information led by Superintendent Cook.
Thank you, Chair Barnes Delakia. The consent for information includes the following policies today and regulations that the district is adopting. There were no public feedback received on any of the policies or regulations. GCBDA-AP and AR, Family and Medical and Military Leave. GCBDF-AP, Paid Family Medical Leave Insurance. IKFB-AP, Graduation Requirements. And IKFB-AR, the wearing of items of cultural significance in graduation exercises. I would note that the language that you see in the policy that was added in green font was added after conferring with high school principals. This consent for information also includes the annual report on the executive limitation 4.3 financial planning and administration.
Thank you. Are there any questions? We'll now move into the report on EL 4.3, financial planning. No? Oh, that was part, I'm sorry. Excuse me. Great. Then we will move into item number 9, reports, which will be our EL curriculum adoption. Very excited about this, and we will be led by Julie Walker, Elementary Director of Curriculum Instruction and Systems.
Okay, let's see if I can work this. All right, I am really, really excited to be here tonight to give a report on our language arts adoption process.
Julie, can I ask to use the microphone so that our distant audience can hear? And our
Sure,
public?
I have a really soft voice too. So. I think I'm good. I'll just project a little bit more. Okay, so I'm going to start out with just a little bit of where we have been. We started this process 2 years ago in 22-23. And I just want to start with an appreciation for, we have 30 members of our team. Some of them are here tonight. We have classroom educators, we have instructional coaches, we have specialists, we have a media manager. We have lots of members on our team, and they have dedicated 2 years to this process. So I really want to appreciate them and thank them. And so where have we been? The committee formed in September of 2022, and we started out with really wanting to know what our students, what their voices were saying, what our families were saying, what our staff members were saying. So we did interviews. We did interviews with our staff, our students, our families. And we took all of that information back, and then we did a thorough research review of all the most current reading research that's out there, and we came up with a set of core beliefs. And in that set of core beliefs, we used resources like Achieve the Core, Letters, which is Language Essentials for Teaching, Reading, and Spelling, and Natalie Wexler's work on building knowledge. And through those core beliefs, we formed a set of core beliefs that really believes in the importance of high-quality materials, high-quality instruction, engagement, assessment, and a culture of literacy in our schools. So once we drafted our first round of the core beliefs, we took them out and asked for feedback. We asked for feedback from our staff, we asked for feedback from the community, and we received that feedback and we took it back and we revised our core beliefs, finalized those core beliefs, and they have led us in our work in choosing a language arts curriculum. At that point, we also went to Oregon Department of Education's instructional materials rubrics, used those rubrics to begin an initial review of 10 curriculums. We started with 10 in the 22-23 school year.
We did a deep dive into those curriculums, got down to 4 spring of last year, field tested 4 of those curriculums. And then in the fall of this year, we came back together and came to consensus on 1 curriculum. And I'm going to talk about that curriculum in just a moment. We had 100% consensus on our team for the curriculum that we would like to recommend. And this school year, we have been continuing to field test that curriculum in 30 classrooms. So we have 30 classroom teachers right now teaching the modules of this program and giving feedback that's really driving how we'll roll out the curriculum next fall. So I want to appreciate those teachers as well. We offered another opportunity for feedback at October conferences. We had materials in all 19 elementary schools and had opportunities for both families and our staff to provide feedback. All right, and so just want to talk a little bit about, so one of the things, this rope is called Scarborough's rope, and this is really what it takes to be a skilled reader. So what it takes to be a skilled reader is both word recognition and language comprehension. Without one of those things, it is really, really hard to be a skilled reader. So in the 21-22 school year, we began the process of adopting a foundational skills program, which really gets at the word recognition side of this rope. We adopted really great reading, and we are in our 2nd year of implementation. Implementation's going really well. And so this part of the adoption is language comprehension. And this is really, this part of the adoption is really getting at background knowledge, vocabulary knowledge building, language structures, reasoning, reading and writing being integrated. And we are recommending to the board that we use EL education, otherwise known as expeditionary learning from Imagine Learning. And before I talk a little bit more about that, I want to talk about some big shifts that we are trying to make in our language arts program. And these shifts come from the science of reading. So all of the most current reading research is telling us some shifts that we need to make. And one of those big shifts is moving from what's called the balanced literacy approach to a structured literacy approach. So we're moving from an approach where we would give a mini lesson and then kids would go out and choose books at their level and engage in those books. And then teachers would do some small groups with those students and do some conferring with that. And what we've learned from research is that we need a little bit more of a structured approach. And with that approach, we need to dive deeper into building knowledge of the world. That we need a more integrated approach of teaching reading and writing. And that we're really moving away from, in our current reading program, Wonders, we have taught comprehension in very isolated skills. So you might teach cause and effect one week and main idea the next week. And you might have a story on one topic one week and a completely different topic the next week. Where we're moving to is deep dives into content, and a text-centered approach. So a lot deeper understanding of a text is what we're moving towards. Okay, so with that being said, EL is the recommendation of our committee, and I will talk a little bit about the why we chose EL. So EL education is a program that is designed, the design of the curriculum is based on these 3 things. So first and foremost, it's a content-based literacy program. So, and it's built in every module and lesson on the idea that we are working to build the mastery of knowledge and skills, that we are building character through every lesson, and that we are working towards high-quality student work. And one of our big goals as a system is to increase the reliability of a guaranteed and viable curriculum. And with doing so, providing those high-quality instructional materials reduces variability across our classrooms, and that gives our students access. And EL, in addition, is very systematic, it's explicit, and it's cumulative. Everything builds. So this is really hard to see, But one of the things about EL education is, like I said before, it's content-based. So you will see a lot of science and social studies content within. It is not a science and social studies curriculum, so we will not cover all of our social studies and science standards teaching this language arts program. But we will be able to cover some of them. We have a work group working right now on an alignment document that's naming all the standards that we will cover through teaching EL. One of the things that came out of our interviews with students is that in the Youth Truth and in the interviews with students is that oftentimes our students don't feel challenged. So one of the most exciting things about EL is that it's built on the idea of you are putting forth real world problems. You are putting questions out that are ones that kids want to dive into and engage in. So the program it's built on these three ideas. It's challenging, it's engaging, and it's empowering. With that being said, I would also say that it's also built on this idea of like working on equity and access for all. So within every module and every lesson, you will see diverse texts. You will see universal design for learning, where teachers will have supports for heavier and lighter scaffolds to help their learners. You'll see conversation cues for helping helping our multilingual learners access. You'll see deep dives into vocabulary and language structures. So there's lots of supports for students and teachers built in. Okay, so you've heard a lot from me. I would like to have some of our teachers that have been working very hard implementing EL modules for this school year. And so I have 3 people that are going to share. Rachel Schindel, 5th grade teacher at Lava Ridge, is first.
So just talking to this? Okay. All right, so I'm Rachel Schindel. I teach 5th grade at Lava Ridge, and we're gonna start off just by watching a video of one of my students, and then I'll talk a little bit about it. This is Emma.
Well, it really shows me the perspective from her angle and her family's angle, and when her papa dies and when he doesn't come home, and when they always meet in the backyard but he doesn't show up, and when they find out he dies. I felt sad that from her angle, like knowing what happened. Well, sometimes I feel a little uncomfortable if I don't know that person as well, but if I know that person well, it's fun. It's nice to, well, socialize. Yeah. I know one thing and they don't know that thing, but I don't know something they said, then I learned that information and they learned the information I told them. I mean, getting like the words, like the Spanish words, like figuring out what those ones are.
So the reason I love this clip is because you would never know that that is one of my readers that is developing, as we would say. And so you would not know how much that means to me that she's able to access this book. She would never be able to read this book on her own. And so through this curriculum, she is able to, along with the whole class, access this. And so one of the other things that it talked about is the face-to-face and the back-to-back protocol. It has so many opportunities for them to communicate with each other and discuss literature. And of course, I teach 5th grade, so it's going to look different to the younger guys. But what's exciting is when we've been in these meetings and heard what the younger grades are doing, it's like, oh my gosh, if those kids are doing that at that age, I cannot wait in a couple years to see the benefits from that. And so just the fact that every kid in my room is able to access these rich texts, the books, the boxes came, and there's all these real text sets to read, and it's just so exciting. And then just the last thing, and you already talked about it, is just teaching literary elements as we're reading a book, not this week, we're going to talk about this. So those are just a few of the things that I've really appreciated about doing this field testing. So I highly recommend it.
All right. Thank you, Rachel. Okay, so our other two people that are sharing are virtual. So first we'll have Momi Honda, and Momi Honda teaches a 1-2 blend at Roslyn Elementary.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. It's a little weird not like seeing what you guys see, so I hope what I say makes sense. I first would like to say how much I'm enjoying this curriculum. Having a combination of first and second graders is challenging, but the way that it's structured, all my students are able to access it, and I can easily differentiate for those that I need to. If you looked at what they're working on, you wouldn't be able to tell which ones were first graders and which ones were second graders. One of the anchor charts on there that we had created was around why school is important. And as we read the book, The Invisible Boy, which we read over multiple days, we continue to add more details to this chart in the different areas that you can see there. Then we also learned that at school, we can learn how to show compassion and respect through what we saw in that text. And then in Unit 2, we started learning about why it's hard for some students to go to school and how the community solved that problem. And by following the same sequence using different schools in different places around the world, we focused on the problem, the solution, and why it was important that the community solve the problem. One of the lessons guided students to examine a paragraph and identify the focus statement, the problem, the solution, and the conclusion. This was done in order to help students to be able to write their own paragraph using the same guidelines. My students are asking questions, they're engaged and are learning. When I introduced the second school we started reading about in Port-au-Prince, Haiti, one of my students asked, well, where is that? And so we took out a globe, we looked at where we were, and then we found it, this teeny tiny, like, oh my gosh, it's so small, it's like way out there. And kind of compared it, and it just like it gave them a window outside of themselves and what they see every day. So it was really a fun experience.
Thanks, Momi. Okay, so our next speaker is Christy Ebner. She's a 3rd grade teacher at Lapine Elementary.
Hi there, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Okay, great. I just decided to go at it from the standpoint of my students, and what their thoughts were about the curriculum as they've been experiencing it. We're working in module 2 of the 4 modules that 3rd grade will have if we adopt this curriculum. And so I have 4 words that came to mind: fun, engagement, equity, and background knowledge. And so in regards to fun, the first quote up there, I like the colorful frogs. My favorite frog is a glass frog, though, because they are see-through. That just reminds me that reading should be fun. And I've found that the books provided through the EL curriculum has brought about a great amount of excitement for my students about frogs, but also about any of the other topics that we have encountered or I've heard other teachers and other grade levels sharing about. And then engagement, Madison's quote there in the middle says, I like glass frogs. I didn't even know glass frogs existed before we started EL. And I thought that was fun, and also shows that these books, like Momi said, they're such quality books. The pictures, I don't know if you can see them on the slide, they're kind of tiny, but they're colorful, they're engaging, the kids absolutely love all of the books that we've had, and the students are just really enjoying it. And their curriculum has shown to be highly engaging, and I feel like it's really leading the learners to that high level of academic achievement that we're wanting, because of the books and because of the structure of the curriculum. And then the next word that came to my mind and continues to come through my mind as we've been doing this is equity. The bottom quote there, I like learning the facts and telling my family about them. They say, wow, how did you learn that? And that has been across the board, from my students that are developing readers to my students who are, reading above grade level, 7th, 8th grade books in 3rd grade. We do not all start from the same place in Ben Lapine schools, and our kids have such a vast level of need. And I feel like it's critical that our new curriculum provides that equity and covers all of the places they're coming from, and gives them that ability to approach it and to connect with it, and to build that background knowledge that's necessary to feel that you know what you're talking about. And so that brings me to my last word, which is background knowledge. And this was my favorite quote. Tyson said, "It's kind of hard on the tests, but it's easy on the learning because of all the reading part, since I'm reading about a lot of all the frogs." And so that words were hard. It chokes me up. He having that time in the text to build confidence and to know what you're talking about and what you're expected to talk to your partner about and what you're expected to then write about is just the most been so amazing to see in the kids. And building that background knowledge is directly affecting their fun with reading, their engagement as a student, their feeling of equity in the classroom. You know, I know how to engage in this conversation because I have something to say about it. And so that has been really, really impactful to me. And I've just really enjoyed the fieldwork and testing out this EL curriculum. And I really hope that it is something that we go forward with, because it has shown me that it can accomplish the goals that we set forth with at the very beginning of this long process of looking at curriculum. So I'm really excited about it.
All right, thank you, Christy. So just going back, I think that our teachers that shared, they just bring it back to YEL and that like mastery of knowledge and skills. You could hear it in everything that they were saying, that building of character of like, you know, why is it important to be a part of a community? And then that like idea of like walking kids through producing high quality work and how important that is. And then just those three things about, you know, our work is challenging, our work is empowering, and our work is engaging. And those come through in every single lesson, every single day in the EL curriculum. So very excited about that. We couldn't see, oh, I don't know if I can go backwards. The back button. Okay. Okay, so I just wanted to quick show the pictures. These are the pictures from Momi's classroom. You can see pictures of the charts that they're building and some of the paragraph analyst, I can't say that word right now, that they are doing. So lots of great work. And this is from Christy Ebner's classroom. You can see some of the work that they're studying. So just to wrap it up, next steps for us, we're going to have one more round of community feedback. We have 2 events set up for January 26th and January 29th, I believe, and we'll have materials here at the Education Center for teachers and community members to take a look and give any feedback. And we are hoping to come back on the 13th of February for a board recommendation, and our team will continue on with professional learning planning. And just as an end, I cannot thank our team of 30 enough. Like, they have taken on an extra challenge to teach these units and these lessons, so thank you to them.
Are there questions for Julie from our board?
I'll just make a quick comment and appreciation. This is very thorough. Thank you. And I really appreciate you sharing the process and adding teacher perspective here tonight. So thanks for those who came and virtually as well.
Thank you. And I gave a few questions in advance, so thank you for weaving those into the presentation, Julie. I really appreciate it. I will say this does tie very well to a previous board meeting that we had, and some of our board members who were asking, hey, how can we have this type of engagement and these authentic learning experiences for kids across our schools? And it seems to me that this is a really great match with our literacy and with those questions and those further goals for really helping students be engaged and have a passion, purpose, and plan for their future. So thank you very much. On the next one? Okay, great. We are going to now move on, so Julie's going to stay with us for our action items. For 10A, we have our Early Literacy Success Initiative, and Superintendent Cook, do you want to go first, or do you want Julie to go first? Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Barnes-Delakia. I want to kind of tee this up for Julie. The Early Literacy Success Initiative, if you recall, this was proposed by legislature back in the spring and then agreed to be funded for this year. But we did not get access to the funding and cannot get access to the funding until we propose what our plan for how we would implement the funding. And so this is, if you recall, we had local legislators. Jason Croft was deeply engaged in this work, and also with the support of Emerson Levy. This is a big investment that comes from the legislature and that we're excited to be partnering with. And so Julie's going to talk a little bit about how we intend to use the dollars that are committed to making sure that our youngest, most vulnerable learners have the resources they need to be able to meet the expectations that this is going to be sent out statewide. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Julie.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit tonight about our early literacy grant application. And I think Dr. Cook pretty much talked about the purpose. The Early Literacy Success Grant is a grant for school districts to work on early literacy. And my presentation tonight is to explain our plan and to ask for approval of our plan, and then also to provide an opportunity for public comment on the plan. So our grant application was actually submitted yesterday, January 8th, 2024, for this biennium, which is 2023 to 2025. And before I start on this, I want to just talk a little bit about, I want to highlight that I feel that really proud of the fact that Ben Lapine Schools has really been on the leading edge of early literacy and moving to the science of reading. We have been working very hard for the last at least 3 years on instructional practices around the science of reading. We started 3 to 5 years ago with Orton Gillingham training, and I think we're up to about 120 teachers that are Orton Gillingham trained at this point. And then we adopted Really Great Reading, which is our foundational skills curriculum. We are implementing that in all of our K-5 classrooms and in second year of implementation. We continue to work on our instructional practices and building our background knowledge around the science of reading and foundational skills instruction. So as part of our process for this grant, we had a group of about 20 educators, early literacy K-3 educators, our lead literacy coach, Lindsley Gehrig, our instructional coaches, some of who are here today, Marcy Adams, Kaylin Adams, they're here today. Lori Hewitt is here today. And we had specialists and also some of our administrators participated in a review of our early literacy program. And we had 2 documents that really guided our work, the Oregon's Early Literacy Framework and the Essential Practices in Early Literacy, which was put out by Instruction Partners. And you can see here, this is our allocation. So year 1 in the 23-24 school year, we have about $1.1 million. And in the 24-25 school year, we have $1.2 million. So as part of our work, we did a review of our current early literacy program. And we looked at what are our strengths, what are we doing really well at, and then what are some possible areas for growth. And through that, we found that we really have strengths in student belonging through our work with Wayfinder and our work on building community in our schools. We have built up our student belonging. We have strong oral language. We'll continue to build on that with EL, but Really Great Reading also has components. We have been working through our professional learning around reading models based in research, and we have a strong foundational skills program in place. So some areas for growth for us are really around the areas that we really just talked about around EL education. One being that idea of needing to work on the writing, reading, comprehension, vocabulary, and background knowledge part of our reading blocks. And so we're hoping to lift up EL to do that work. We continue to work on our Tier 1 core instruction practices and our assessment practices, reaching all learners, and then our family and community partnerships. So the one thing to note about this grant is it has certain allowable uses. You can only spend the money on certain things. So you can spend the money on professional development and coaching. You can spend the money on high dosage tutoring. You can spend the money on extended day or extended learning programs. You can spend the money on research-based curriculum. And I think that's it. Okay, so in Ben Lapine, we decided in our first biennium of this grant to really focus on lifting up current initiatives that we've been working on. So that being our instructional materials, both EL and really great reading, and some of our professional learning and building up teacher knowledge around literacy instruction. So we're proposing in our grant proposal to support some of our current FTE in instructional coaching. We're going to support our cohorts. We have one cohort right now of 25 teachers who are participating in LETTERS, which is a 2-year, very intensive professional learning experience. And then we will start another cohort in the 24-25 school year. Another opportunity is out of Eastern Oregon. It's similar to LETTERS, a little bit less intensive. And this opportunity will be for 25 teachers to participate in. It's an asynchronous course with 8 different sessions. And we also partnered with the High Desert ESD to offer 20 more seats for educators to participate in this. And this will be paid for by the district. We also have a new hire literacy training, which we have been sustaining over the last 5 years. So that includes literacy training for anybody that's new to Ben Lapine, and is followed by instructional coaching cycles. And we hope to use some of our funds to help lift some professional learning and training for our new program, which will be EL. And another component to that is we hope to begin to, one of the initiatives that was named in the Essentials for Early Literacy is the idea of early literacy teams in every building. And we hope to start with one this year as a pilot and then build to 5 schools next year. In terms of extended learning programs, we chose to hold off a little bit on adding extended learning programs for this year. We do have Lexia available to our students. We'll have a select group of students that we focus on with Lexia. Our hope in the 24-25 summer, the summer of 24-25, is to offer high dosage tutoring for 100 students and then hire 10 certified employees to have a caseload of about 10 students and work with those students over 10 weeks in the summer. So high dosage tutoring, and I should say that one of the things that's required by the grant is high dosage tutoring. So we had to have something around high dosage tutoring as part of our grant, which I'm actually very excited about. There is a program, or there's a company called Ignite Tutoring, and they do a virtual tutoring. And it's a one-on-one tutoring. It's 15 minutes a day. It's during the school day. And we are going to be able to offer that to 60 first grade students in 2 schools, hopefully for the rest of this school year, and then raise it to 100 first grade students in 5 schools next school year. Then another piece to how we will spend the funds is to really lift up the curriculum that we are currently using. So really great reading, the online tools and the workbooks, EL books and materials. will be funded both in this school year and next school year. As part of the grant, they ask for how we will communicate our plans. And so one of the ways, we have a partnership with the High Desert ESD where we meet with school districts around the state regionally. And then within Ben Lapine, we have a strategic team that meets regularly. We'll also communicate via our teaching and learning blog, through our ICCL teams. And then with families and communities, we hope to really communicate via the Family Spotlight. Part of the early literacy teams is to communicate individual student goals with families regularly. And part of the high dosage tutoring includes a family component, as well as EL education has a lot of family components to it as well. Okay, so at this point, I recommend that the board approve our grant plan.
Great. So thank you so much, Julie, for your presentation. What we will do is take a motion, a second, and then we'll have any discussion or questions at that point. So can I have a motion to approve the Early Literacy Success Initiative Plan?
I move to approve the Early Literacy Success Initiative Grant Plan.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second, please.
Great. Director Fisher has moved. Director Olson has seconded. Are there any questions or discussion on the plan? I think that sounds like a very, very comprehensive presentation, so thank you. At that point, I will move for a vote. I will move to a vote. I will do a roll call again. Director Tatum?
Aye.
Director McPherson Douglas?
Aye.
Director Olson?
Aye.
Director Fisher?
Aye.
And I am an aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you so much. We will now move into item 10B, Annual Comprehensive Financial Report, and we'll be led by Leah Bibot, our Finance Director.
Good evening, Board. I'm Leah Bibot, the Finance Director for Ben Lapine. Our audit for our year ending June 30th, 2023 is completed, and you've been provided with a copy of our, do I need to get closer? You need to make the mic taller. You've been presented with a copy of our beautiful financial statements, the pride of the business office. Inside is also a copy of the management letter from our auditors. So our auditors, Sensiba LLP, have issued a clean, unmodified opinion. This is the best rating you can get, or the best opinion you can get on our financials, so we're very happy for that this year. Part of the audit process that we go through is the district partnering with our auditors, that as we're going through our review process, to look for any potential improvements in our internal controls or our processes. We have a couple of recommendations that are noted in our letter. I would like to state that we got to them first. So it was through our internal controls and processes that we identified some improvements that we could put in place and proposed some adjusting entries that they accepted and wrote up in their management letter. So I'm really pleased with the way things turned out this year, and I hereby recommend that the board approve our annual consolidated financial report for year ending June 30th, 2023, unless anybody has any questions.
We'll go ahead and do a motion, a second, and then we'll move to questions or discussions. I will accept a motion.
I move to accept the annual consolidated financial report as presented.
I'll second.
Thank you. Director McPherson Douglas has motioned. Director Tatum has seconded. Are there any questions or discussion? Hearing no questions or discussion, I will move to a vote, a roll call vote. Director Tatum?
Aye.
Director McPherson Douglas?
Aye.
Director Olson?
Aye.
Director Fisher?
Aye.
And I am an aye as well. Motion passes unanimously. I do want to give an appreciation and a recognition that this is an incredible report and audit, and congratulations on receiving the top, as strong an audit as we could that is given. So it really shows the strength of our business office and just the work that you do alongside Brad Henry. So thank you so much, Leah.
You're welcome. I just really like to recognize my team. There's a lot of hours that go into prepping these, and my team does a phenomenal job keeping on top of all of this. So I'm very proud of everybody in the business office and all those outside of the business office who help us as well. So thank you
Great.
very much.
Thank you.
Good night.
We'll now move on to item 10C, multiple unit property tax exemption, or MUPD, and we will be led by Sharon Smith, our land use attorney.
Hey, Sharon, before you start, I want to say just one thing, okay? Before we get going on this, I just want to talk a little bit about what you're going to hear from us first. MUPD program is the program that the city is utilizing to help incentivize builders to build multi-unit properties in the community. What you're going to hear from us today, and Sharon's going to present, is our support in meeting that expectation, specifically as it relates to the portion of the community known as the TIF, which is an area of urban growth that is already, the property taxes are already being allocated away from the taxing districts. And so I'll have Sharon explain this, but in essence, the fact that those property tax dollars are already engaged in public reinvestment and development through the TIF, that is money that we are not receiving already currently. And so I think it's important that we note that. I think it's also important that when we talk about reinvesting in those, potentially reinvesting in those areas of the community, that the 10-year tax abatement incentivizing that growth and development does expire over time. And so those properties would eventually move back onto the tax rolls, and we would be collecting property tax for those properties after that exemption expires. But at this point in time, that information, or those dollars are already being allocated in that direction. So before we get started, I wanted to say that first, and now I'd like to turn over to Sharon. Thank you.
Rather a policy level of allowing the city's process, which is in place, to go forward within the TIF area for a period of 18 months. So what we're asking you to do is approve the resolution that would then allow the city, if they approve an application within the TIF for MUPD, that they individual tax or developer do not have to come back to each board, to us, for an individual approval. So it is a policy level approval, and we're anticipating probably no more than another 3 coming in that we're aware of, maybe 4, within the next 18 months, according to the city. And so we won't be coming back for one-offs. This is really just you're saying at a policy level, since it's within the TIF, we've already foregone that revenue, you're going to defer basically to what the city's decision on these applications would be. So just asking for that policy level resolution. Unless you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
I will take a motion to approve in a second, and then we'll open to discussion and questions.
I move to adopt the resolution approving the MUPD property tax exemption for projects approved by the City of Bend through June 30, 2025.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Great. Director Fisher has moved. Director Tatum has seconded. Are there any questions or discussion regarding MUPD? I want to simply appreciate the process, recognizing it's an 18-month piece, but allowing us to focus on the work of children and schools and education. And I think that this supports our work as well in that focus. I will move for a vote, and I will do roll call. Director Tatum?
Aye.
Director McPherson Douglas?
Aye.
Director Olson,
Aye.
Director Fisher,
Aye.
and I am an aye. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now move to item 11, Administrative Policy and Regulations and Review, and I will turn it over to Dr. Cook.
Thank you, Chair Barnes-Delakia. We have a couple of policies in review that we would like to push into review into the region as we speak. The first one that I would like to present to you all is IKF-AR. It's an administrative regulation. This regulation would make changes to the high school diploma, the graduation requirements and graduation exercises, which includes language for the seal of biliteracy requirement. It also would make modifications to the honor diploma, and that information is found in your handbook, which includes waiver requirements for small high schools, which have also been updated. And one of the things that I want to bring attention to is that it changes the standard for qualification for the honors diploma by allowing finishing courses in career tech ed pathways to now qualify, which we feel like is a very smart and prudent move for students because number one, it's valuable to them for that level of participation in completing those pathways, and number two, it's going to prevent them from. We have students who have stepped out of programming to go take something that would allow them to qualify for the honors diploma. This allows that to happen. And so we feel like this is a good move, and we're going to be pushing that policy out for 30 days for consideration, and we'll let the community give us some feedback on that. The second policy that we are putting up for review at this point is policy.
Dr. Cook. Oh, do you
Yeah,
want
go
us
ahead.
to hold questions? Can I ask a question about that one, or do you want us to hold questions until the end?
No, it's fine. Yeah, go ahead, Carrie.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you could talk just a little bit about the process for getting feedback from students and schools on that policy before bringing it to the community. When we were briefed on this, I was really pleased to hear how much effort had gone into getting school level feedback, and I'm hopeful that that will become a regular expectation before policies are brought to the community.
Yeah, there are certain policies. Thank you for the question. I think that's a really good example of how we're implementing the opportunity to get student voice and community voice in these policies. And so at this point, I'm going to ask Stephen Duvall to come up. He was one of the ones that helped marshal the recommended changes in this policy across the finish line. So Stephen, if you wouldn't mind sharing some of the processes we went through.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the question. This came out of teacher voice to start. We were hearing from CTE teachers around students who are passionate about their programs that were feeling like they had to choose a different path in order to qualify for the honors diploma when they prefer to stay in that advanced CTE program and pathway. And so that kind of kick-started the questioning. And so we started the process by gathering input from other teachers and getting their sense on how they felt around the policy and what recommendations they would make. From there, we decided to involve student voice, and we brought in the superintendent's advisory council and presented the information to them to get their feedback as well. On top of that, we had each of the high schools' advisory teams, the student advisory teams, take a look at this policy and weigh in and comment. And so we used, I would say, over a year's worth of feedback from staff and students to kind of gather what's the universal support here. And they were very much in favor of expanding this definition to allow for those CTE pathways with advanced level and rigorous coursework to count towards the honor diploma.
Thank you.
So just to clarify, the CTE classes then are all 100 level or higher college transfer courses?
Yeah, so there's two things at play here within this change. One is the existing policy as it is written right now. There's 5 capstone classes for a student to earn an honors diploma, and 3 of those 5 have to be listed as AP or IB. And then the other 2 can also be AP or IB, or 100 level college courses. And so the first piece at play is that we were hearing from students, and we even had one student that transferred in from another district at one of our regional high schools that didn't have access to AP or IB, but had taken a number of college-level courses. And reading the policy as it was written, we couldn't award her an honors diploma because the 3 required being AP or IB. So that was one of the pieces of feedback we got from students specifically, was that they felt like that definition of a capstone class for all 5 should be AP, IB, or 100 level. There shouldn't be this distinction because AP and IB credits count towards college, as do 100 level classes. So that's the first piece. The second piece that students and staff felt very strongly about was, of those 5 capstone classes, the new wording in there now states that 3 of the 5 need to be from core classes, math, science, language arts, social studies, or language, where before they had to be all 5. This opens the door for the other 2 classes of their capstone to be CTE or other pathways, as long as they are articulated 100 level courses or higher, AP or IB.
Thank you.
I have a request. Stephen, we have talked about this significantly, so I'm totally understand the honors diploma. But one of the things and the changes. But one of the things that I would love to see, I would like to see a matrix of all of our diploma and graduation requirements, kind of in one place, so that you can kind of, follow the steps of each one of our diplomas, and that would include not just the academic, the honors, the academic, and the standard, but also the modified. Is that a possibility? Do we have that anywhere?
Absolutely. I know our lead counselor on assignment, Jess Calbreth, has been working on that exact matrix. I'm not 100% certain if it's done yet, but she's been plotting that out, and then also how that will change with upcoming requirements from ODE for graduation diploma requirements. So that is definitely something I'll go make a note of, Shirley, that we can at least bring you up to speed on the document with where it is in draft form, but it's going to be shared with our counselors here. I know that's in Jess's plans pretty soon.
Great, that's super. Thank you much.
Can I ask a follow-up question on the CTE?
Of course.
At all of our high schools, do all of our high schools have CTE courses that are articulated as 100-level college courses?
I would have to check it. I don't believe all of them, because Realms only has one program of study, and I'm not sure any of theirs are articulated. Our big comprehensive have at least a few. The nice thing that this will do too, Melissa, is that there is a requirement to be a program of study that our courses align with a community college. There is not a requirement to articulate, but there is a requirement that CTE courses align with a neighboring or a regional community college. And so that next step to articulation from alignment is really, really easy, because we've already aligned the curriculum. So our hope is this will also maybe kickstart some of that and incentivize some of our programs to take that next step to articulate from the agreement, because all the groundwork is there. It's just like it's 80 to 90% done. And so our hope is that if this moves through, I'm talking to CTE teachers tomorrow, that this is an added benefit for them to go ahead and take that next step and articulate.
Great, and I think obviously the question behind the question is opportunity and then guaranteeing access to that opportunity in each of our schools.
100%.
Yeah, thank you. I believe we were halfway through, Superintendent Cook.
Thank you.
Yeah, we have one more I want to talk through. Thank you, Stephen. The second policy that's going out for review is policy KGB, and it's also an administrative regulation. The title of this policy is Public Conduct on District Property. This policy has been updated to include language about appropriate conduct and expectations of the public while on district property. It has some alignment modifications that are already aligned to district practice, policies, and regulations. And so I want to draw special attention to this policy. If you recall, we had at our last business meeting, was it December? Yeah, it would have been in December. We talked a lot about e-bikes, and we talked about whether or not e-bikes have a place on campus. And we were spending a pretty substantial amount of time working on communication strategies across the district and a reminder to students of expectations on that. And to be just quite blunt, one of the things that was clear was that e-bikes are currently not legal for those under the age of 16. Now, that being said, there have been lots of conversations in this city regarding the use of e-bikes by students, by not students, by individuals under the age of 16 and whether or not they're using them legally. There's no question that it is against the law. The second piece of that is that there is some interpretation of what that law was intended to mean when it was written in the early 90s. And so what we have done with this policy, first of all, what we thought was going to be a pretty quick and easy rewrite to an existing policy turned into about 25 lines of modification, not because of e-bikes, but because of this policy hadn't been touched since 2007. And so while we did make modifications to the language around e-bikes, we also made a lot of other language. Drones didn't exist in 2007. I mean, public use drones. And so we made modifications to those kinds of policy, those parts of the policy as well. I would draw special attention to the aspect that was such a point of conversation last month, and that is in items 14 and 15 on this policy specifically. I want to note, I don't typically do this, but because there was so much engagement about this, I do want to draw this out. And so, and I anticipate when we push this out, there's going to be interest in feedback, gathering feedback on this. So in item 14, you'll notice it states, in the preface to this is that no person on district property or grounds, including parking lots, will, and then item 14 says, operate a motor vehicle in an area other than on roads and in parking areas constructed or designated for motor vehicle use. Vehicles shall be driven in a safe and lawful manner at posted speeds and will only be appropriately parked in areas designated by the district. Motorized vehicles such as mini bikes, scooters, go-karts, all-terrain vehicles, snowmobiles, and other similar devices are prohibited on district grounds. And then secondly, on 15, bicyclists, including those riding an e-bike, must comply with Oregon motor vehicle and bike regulations and laws. And so lots of conversations about this policy, and as we push this out, we will be seeking community feedback, and as we obtain that, we would like to bring that back to you in the February board meeting. And I would say that there's also been discussions with our local representatives and some council members, and Brian Potwin from Community Options and I had a conversation yesterday about it's still committing to educational impact and communications in our schools about the policy doesn't change the fact that we want our students to know and understand how to utilize bikes and e-bikes safely. And so what our obligation continues to be as we communicate about those things. And so, I'll stand for that. If you have any questions, I will add just as one more item on there, that there was one other policy that we were going to bring to you today, IGAC. It's also an administrative regulation, treatment of religion in schools. It continues to be in review as the feedback. We've gotten quite a bit of feedback that we want to consider, and so it did not come back yet, and so it's still in review. And then we've got another set of policies that we're working on that relate to sponsorship and fundraising that, if you recall, came about from conversations about the Nosler signs at Mountain View High School and Summit High School. And there's been, the complications of that are just, there's about 7 or 8 different policies now that are going to be potentially impacted. And so we're working on those, and we anticipate those probably to be coming, we believe, sometime in April. We feel like we ought to be able to get those tied up. The fact that there's just a lot of different policies. And so those are kind of what's under work right now. And so I'm glad to answer any questions about IGAC, KGB, or those that we'll be bringing at a later date. I'd appreciate those questions to wait when those come to your front.
Are there any questions for Superintendent Cook?
I do have a question. Under the final statement on the policy on restrictions and consequences, Is it clear that this is directed only to public and not staff or students, or is that included?
It is essentially a policy that's written about the property and how an individual is expected to act on the property. So for example, if we had a staff member that wanted to choose to ride an e-bike to work, that's a legal thing for a staff member to do. A staff member would not be violating any laws by riding it over the age of 16. Now, if they were violating a speed limit or parking rules or things like that, they could be subject to that policy. And so it would not prohibit or preclude staff members, if we do adopt this policy, from utilizing that opportunity.
Thank you.
Superintendent Cook, I am curious about line 1, which talks about bullying, for example. And then it says, those people, and since it applies to students, may be issued a trespass, ejected from premises, excluded from activities, etc. And I know bullying, as we've received emails from parents whose students are continuing to be bullied, and we have restorative justice practices. Kind of want you to comment a little bit on how administrators should take this policy if they have students who are continuing to bullying and restorative justice has failed. What is the role of the policy in terms of implementation and potential consequences to students who do not change their behavior?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question, Director Tatum. I think the thing I would say first off is that the student handbook and the behaviors that are laid out in how we're going to address student behaviors as it relates to harassment and bullying would be first and foremost the process for any kind of disciplinary action that might be addressed on campus. What this allows is it allows for this statement number 1, if you will, allows for the district to talk about it from the lens of if there are other people that aren't students that would be subject to the student handbook. It allows us to have a way to address those behaviors. So if somebody's visiting our campus, or if there are adults or any other individual, I think you could even say staff would be also subject to like a staff set of guidance. But this gives us the authority on our property to say we're not going to tolerate such behavior. So it expands the places where that could be, not the places, but the way that that could be administered. And so it's a tool that provides administrators the ability to say we're not going to tolerate that behavior, even if they don't have students engaging in that. It's by other people engaging in that types of behavior.
Superintendent Cook, I think my one ask, and even as my one suggestion, and even as I scroll over this, a list of 26 is not very consumable for the public. And so I would encourage the department to look at groupings. I see about 4 or 5 easily in terms of, the property itself, sewage, destroying land, tipping over, et cetera. Perhaps one on motorized anything, and then there's hazing. It seems to jump around in that list, and so I just encourage us to group those for better readability.
Thank you for that feedback.
Dr. Cook, I have a clarification. I understand that there's a lot of different aspects to this policy that have been revised and that we may want to collect, or that we do want to collect community input on. I am confused why we would have a discussion or solicit feedback as to whether or not we should follow state law in this case about e-bikes. My understanding is that we adhere to all state laws and that there would be no reason why the state law should be any different. And I could editorialize, but just from a liability standpoint, it seems to me that we would put our district at pretty great risk if anything happened and we were not following state law. So I just want to clarify for the public whether or not we are actually taking input on whether or not a policy would follow state law or not.
Thank you for that question. I think the first answer is yes, we always do allow public feedback, and we get all kinds of interesting feedback. Sometimes it's very worth considering, and sometimes not as much. And so while I'm not sure we have intention to implement something that would be, if somebody were so inclined as to give us guidance as to why this shouldn't happen, that we would be interested in entertaining that. But nonetheless, we're going to give them the opportunity to provide what feedback they would want to, as we would with any policies that we're pushing through. And so I appreciate your question. I agree with you. I think it wouldn't be mindful for us to say, yeah, somebody disagreeing with the adding a statement about following the law is not necessary. I think having it in policy is actually a pretty comprehensive move on this part, and I think that that's the update that we were seeking. And there's actually, and I think it's a great consideration to do a better job of grouping on this policy. The biggest issue we had was there were a lot of things that had changed since 2007. That 16 years worth of updates needed to be captured, and so I think we can take that feedback and incorporate that in our modification before February.
Yeah, and I think you had noted for us that should Oregon law change, which some people are anticipating in one way or another, that this policy would not need to be revised because, again, it simply refers back to the school district abiding by state law, whatever that state law is.
That's correct.
Thank you.
We will now move into item number 12, which is the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Chair Barnes-Delaki. I have three things that I want to share with you for my superintendent's report. The first one is it's gotten some press, but I just think it's really, really important to talk about the celebration. That is the expansion of the CEP program, which, if you recall, allows students to have free access to lunches. We've now got 22 of our schools that are accessing that. And that comes from change in federal law that allows the threshold to move from 40% to 25% of students that qualify for free and reduced lunch. That set the stage up for that work through our nutrition department. And with some legal maneuvering and the way that schools were grouped, that allowed us to maximize that opportunity. And so this is just such a big win for students across the district. And I'm just proud of the work that we had. We were one of the first in the region, maybe even the state, to get this work taken care of. And so that all of our kids that attend those schools came back from break and now qualify for free lunches in those additional, I think, 12 schools, I think, were added to that list. And so that's a big deal. And so just a shout out to our team, first of all. A lot of gratitude for the change in that regulation, and I hope to see that the state of Oregon takes a lead from the feds on that change, because that could also benefit us if the state would also reduce that threshold for that qualification as well. And so really big celebration for us. That's a big win for our students, and I'm grateful for that. The second thing is I just want to talk a little bit about we're starting the strategic planning core team. Has been identified, and we're starting to talk about that work as we would move into kind of towards the fall. We're starting to think about what the next 5 years would look like. And that core team, we have members of the core team here tonight, have met once and kind of had so what are we trying to accomplish and how are we trying to work on meeting the expectations of the board goals? And so I'm excited about that group. We have administrators, teachers, we have EAs, we have staff across the district, 16 people. We have a board member on that group as well. And so that planning work is getting underway, and very excited about where that's going to take us and start to lay out kind of the direction we're headed in the next 5 years. And then the last thing I want to talk about is a bargaining update. We're at a place where I think genuinely we had all hoped that we were going to be tying things up before the winter break. We unfortunately didn't get there. I will say we've gotten a lot done with both OSEA and BEA. I'm excited. We have 2 dates established with BEA. We have full day sessions on January 19th and 22nd. We also have agreed to have some preliminary work to do ahead of time with a small cadre of folks from both sides getting together to talk about a couple of articles, Articles 16 and Articles 18, where we're just trying to get language dialed in. That has to do with the kind of working conditions. 16 is the working conditions article, and 18 is, I would call it classroom conditions, learning environment, something like that. So we hope to get those. I think we've got the members identified, and I think we've got dates preliminary identified for when those kind of small subcommittees, they're not formal subcommittees, a group of people can sit in there. We told them we'll lock the door, throw in a pizza, and they can come out when they get some language agreed to, and then take it back to both groups. And then hopefully we can go into January 19th and the 22nd and knock out all the rest of the stuff where we've got some distance. And then with OSEA, we met. Let's see, what is today? Yesterday? Yeah, it was yesterday. Yesterday we met, and we're getting also very close with them. They had quite a bit of work to do to get back. The district had presented them with quite a bit of information for the next proposal, and so now they spent a lot of time yesterday. They're going to spend a lot of time tomorrow building their reply, and then we've got 3 more dates tentatively scheduled with them to try to get that tied up, hopefully in the month of January. And so I'm excited about those opportunities, and we're going to continue to work hard to get that accomplished. And so glad to stand for any questions if you have any.
Are there any questions? Hearing no questions, we'll move into the board report. We'll piggyback on that celebration with the lunch program. To have 2/3 of our schools providing free breakfast and lunch to any child is pretty monumental. And there is research behind this that says that it supports not only the academic, but the social and emotional outcomes as well. So huge kudos. I know that Director Olson was one of the directors early on that was asking the questions about how we might access this. So thank you, Director Olson. And then to follow up on what Superintendent Cook said, the board did send out a letter to our 4 representatives and 3 senators, state representatives and senators. That gives you an idea of how big our district is. But asking that Oregon consider lowering that threshold as well, which would potentially allow us to expand that free breakfast and lunch program to even more schools. So very excited about the work there. In addition, I wanted to report that Director Tatum and I did, I said that we did meet with Representative Levy. Our conversation was focused on e-bikes and then on Alyssa's law. With the e-bikes conversation, we shared our concerns around the legislation and around changes that might be happening at the state level. And really that differentiation is one of the things that she is focusing on between bikes that are motor assisted, but have the class 1 vehicles motor assisted, but have to be pedaled versus ones that can operate on a motor alone, and really looking at the difference between those and how we regulate. And so she is working on those pieces. On Alyssa's law, which was a law that was put through as part of the general budget, that is to install panic alarms in every classroom, in every room in schools. We wanted to meet with her because the funding was pretty low, and we wanted to see about whether or not that was going to be mandated. The overall cost, she estimates, is $8 million. It was funded at 2.5, and so for right now, it is not a mandated requirement, and they are currently piloting it in several schools. And then once they learn from that pilot, they'll be able to either offer it to every school or district that's interested, or make it a mandate. They still aren't sure on that. But the estimated cost, because it is not a wired system, which was new learning to me, is about $2,000 per school site. So that was just information to help us understand. We're always worried about unfunded mandates. And so it was good to hear that it is a pilot program and that it is, because it's not fully funded, that it is voluntary right now. Last, I wanted to report on our Healthy Schools partnership. We have been partnering with Deschutes County. This is the 3rd year of a partnership which places mental health specialists, people whose expertise is in community health, that come from the county, and then we place them in our schools to work with our students. It is a 50-50 split, very much like our SRO program, where the district pays half and the county pays half. And so we really look at this as a partnership where we are bringing experts in their field and providing the space and access to our youth community who need that support for their well-being. And so the focus has been on mental health, on suicide prevention, and then also on healthy choices and addiction and working through providing resources for addiction. And so we've had really great response from our students and from our families. We've heard about this in previous board meetings around the enrollment of students in some of our programs to stop vaping, to work on other substance abuses in lieu of suspension. And so choosing to go voluntarily into these programs to help them make better choices and reduce substance abuse. That's been extremely well received, as has been our mental health pieces and really enrolling our students to support peer-to-peer mental health supports, as well as the launch of our Care Solace program, which provides really a concierge to support you through that accessing external mental health supports. I'm so thankful for the county for this partnership, but it is a partnership that will come up for renewal this year. And so I personally will be advocating with our county commissioners and really hope that our three commissioners, Commissioner Chang and Commissioner Adair, have been champions of this program in the past, and I really am thankful for their support and hope that we can count on their continued support. And I hope when we share the results of this program, our early results, that we'll have the support of Commissioner DeBone as well. We have a lot to show in terms of enrollment and some early data in terms of results in this third year. So that is the end of my report, and we will move into director comments. I'll start with our remote directors. Director Tatum.
No comment.
Director McPherson Douglas.
Yeah, I just want to thank everyone that has put hours and hours and hours into contract negotiations on all of the teams. I have been at the bargaining table before, but I'm not this time. And I want to humbly ask that both sides and that each individual on all the teams really think going into the next session how you can compromise. I really want to be talking about working together on a local option for our community so that we have the funding to do the work that we all want to do together. And we cannot have that conversation if negotiations don't wrap up. And if it goes to mediation, we will lose a year of possible funding. So I know it's hard, but please compromise. Almost everyone is going to have to give up something that matters to you. That's just how negotiations work. And I know it's hard, and I value your time and all the passion that everyone has around all the issues. But we need to change our focus to work together to get the funding that we need to do what needs to be done. So deep thanks and appreciation, and I really hope that we can get there soon. Thanks.
Director Olson.
No comment at this time.
Director Fisher.
Yes, I have a few comments. First, I want to recognize, speaking of partnerships, recognize Sean Keating, the principal of Pacific Crest Middle School, who is working really hard with Whitney and Brian with Commute Options, as Dr. Cook mentioned. And we can have policy, but we also need to have action at the school level. And he is making that happen with the Safety Assembly and collaboration with community partners who are willing to step up and focus on awareness and safety and education. And I really appreciate also with Mayor Pro Tem Megan Perkins and so multiple parties coming together to solve a problem. And I'm grateful for that. And then also a big shout out to Eleni, who's here and participating in Student Voice. And I think it was Michael and Brooklyn showing up to share their voice. And I do want to take a moment to say how much I value student voice, and I hope everybody in this room does, as well as family voice. And I have some significant concerns about fear of performative measures, and one of that has to do with how we support our LGBTQ+ kids in our community and in our Ben Lapine schools specifically. And I am quite disheartened and discouraged and disappointed from what I've heard with regard to voice not necessarily being honored when it comes to what's happening with our expansion at Ben Senior High. And I don't know full details, but I'm gathering. And I really want to circle back to the idea that every student belongs, everything that this board has put together and the district is focusing on, and unless the district walks the talk, that student voice, that family voice goes unrecognized. And if we don't model for our students that students come to the table and share what safety issues they're experiencing with regard to access to gender inclusive, neutral bathrooms, what have you, and we don't act on what's working and what's not working, and we don't listen and we don't align our plans to that knowledge, we are doing an incredible disservice to our students and families, and safety, and respect and honor and belonging and human dignity for what our kids deserve. And having gender neutral bathrooms that are locked all day is pointless. And so unless we start acting on it, I will feel continuously discouraged. And so what I am hoping in the future here is that we have more consideration and knowledge and maybe information on what's happening with regard to this idea of educational equity and every student belongs when it comes to our queer students, and idea of regard to what bias incidents are occurring, a summary of what's happening, how that's rolled out, because I have heard countless concerns on the part of students that they don't feel safe, that they don't belong, and that their voices aren't honored. And we need to start moving forward, not just talking about it. And Bend High was a perfect opportunity to show what we believe in, and I'm concerned that we've lost it, that opportunity. So maybe just something to think about and that our board can consider for future board meetings, to hear more about how our voices, our students' voices, and our families' voices are honored and appreciated, whether it's through alliance focus groups for what gender-neutral bathrooms should look like, and those that have been failures, and also that those that can be successes, and moving forward on that, as well as student voices like Eleni's and the rest of the Student Voice Council, who give countless hours of their personal time on evenings and Sundays, and if we don't show their voices matter, then it's pointless. Thank you.
Thank you. I wanted to make an appreciation to Julie Walker for having not just one, but two presentations tonight, both of which I'm incredibly excited about. She said it at the beginning, but really proud of Ben Lapine Schools for being on the cutting edge of the early literacy piece and moving towards the science of reading. We were doing that and making that move well before the state required it. And I am also personally, having had over now 2 decades of experience with EL education, really excited about the potential of this reading adoption and what it brings to kids in terms of engagement, in terms of rigor, and in terms of really connecting learning to passions, purposes, and plans. So thank you for both of those. I also appreciate the MUPD. I wanted to speak to the MUPD real quick. I appreciate we received quite a bit of feedback. So I hope that the people that gave that feedback heard from Superintendent Cook, because it did clarify this 18-month MUPD, and that it really isn't losing revenue, that we losing revenue for the district. I am also interested in future MUPD conversations and being able to really look again across agencies. And as we move to higher density housing in Bend, making sure that we are considering kids, their health, their well-being, and what a true community benefit is in a high density building, and how we really look at how children have space to be able to be healthy and grow up healthy as well. That's a future conversation, but I am just planting that seed now for 18 months out. So with that said, our next meeting is a work session scheduled for January 23rd, and our next regular business meeting is scheduled for February 13th. With that said, this meeting is adjourned.